Gareth, if I could just come in, the deputy chair is on his way and apologises, he's been slightly delayed.
Okay, thank you. Rhaid I ni ddewis y cadeirydd am flwyddyn
We must
nesa.
choose the chair for next year.
Oes na enwebiadau?
Are there any nominations?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Gareth. Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Dylan Rees. I think Dylan has served his position well this year, representing the Fire Authority, and I wish to propose him as our chair for this coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brynmore Hughes. You're on mute, Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I
I would like to second that proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? No. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. So, Councillor Rees, congratulations. Fangobachiadau. I will hand the chair to you.
Thank you very much, Gareth, and can I thank all the members for putting their trust and confidence in me for another year. I certainly do not take it for granted, and I can assure you that I will continue to serve the authority to the best of my ability and with my full commitment. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd. So, moving on to item number 3, declaration of interest. Is there any declarations of interest, please?
So, Chair, just as explained immediately prior to the meeting in response to a question from Councillor Smith, all councillors have a personal interest in item 12, the members' remuneration scheme, but under the Code of Conduct, it is personal only, so members can still take part fully, and we'll just record that for them to save time. I don't know whether there are any interests in any other item, though, Chair.
I can see that Councillor Rob Triggs' hand is up.
Yeah, just to declare that I'm a member of the Fire Brigade Union. So I don't know whether it applies to anything that's here today. It doesn't look like it, but just in case it comes up.
Thank you, Rob. So moving on to item number 4, the appointment of a deputy chair. Can I have nominations, please? Councillor Tina Clayton. You're on mute, Tina.
Yeah, can I nominate Paul Cunningham, please?
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Sandilands.
Yeah, I'd like to second it. I think both yourself and Paul have done an admirable task, and I think with everything going on, I think we should have some continuity. So I'd like to pose and second. Sorry, I'd like to second Paul on this. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your comments. Are there any other nominations for the position of deputy chair? Can't see any other hand being raised. Will you therefore vote in terms of nominating Councillor Paul Cunningham as the deputy chair? That's unanimously carried. Thank you very much indeed. So we go now on to item 5, which is the appointment of chair and deputy chair of the audit committee. Can I have nominations for the chair of the audit committee first of all, please? Councillor Cynghorydd Wilbur Owen.
Cynnig Eilithol.
I propose re-election. That is Councillor Nigel Smith, yes? Yes, thank you.
Councillor Nigel Smith, please. Councillor Austin Roberts,
thank you very much.
Nominations for the chair of the audit committee. Don't see any other hands being raised. Will you therefore show your support for the nomination of Councillor Nigel Smith as chair of the audit committee? That has been passed, and can I thank you, Nigel, for the excellent work that you have been doing and the team have been doing in terms of the audit committee. So we now go on to the deputy chair of the audit committee. Can I have a nomination for deputy chair, please? Councillor Nigel Smith.
I'd like to propose my present vice chair, Councillor Mark. He's been a great support to myself and an excellent member of the audit committee.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Hughes, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, Chair, can I second that?
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations for deputy chair? No, I don't see any hands being raised. Will you show your support for the nomination of Councillor Mark Young as the Deputy Chair of the Audit Committee? Excellent, and thank you very much, Mark, for your work. So we go on now to the minutes. Sorry, number 6, notice of urgent matters. I received no notification of any urgent matters. So we go on to item 7 for the minutes of the annual meeting held last year, the 20th of June, 2022. I'll take them first of all in terms of accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. Does anybody have any corrections or amendments they wish to make? No, I can't see any hands being raised. Therefore, can I have somebody to propose that we adopt the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of June 2022? Councillor Austin Roberts, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Nigel Smith, thank you. Will you show that you approve the minutes, please? Jeff Ravel, those have been passed. Item 8 is matters arising. I don't see any matters arising from the minutes of last year's AGM, unless somebody has anything they feel, anything they feel should be brought up. I can't see any hands being raised, so there are no matters arising. So we go on to item 9, membership of the Fire and Rescue Authority, and I'm going to hand over to the clerk, Gareth Owens, for this. Yeah, Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, we've had a number of changes to the Fire Authority over the last 12 months. We have had a replace. Sadly, of course, we lost Councillor Blakely, and he was replaced by Councillor Michelle Blakely. We have had 2 replacements from Ynys Môn. We have likewise had a replacement from Conwy. The names of the members, Chair, are set out in the next item. So we have the executive panel listed and the audit committee listed, and we see the full membership of the authority across those 2 bodies. We have, and what we have done is we have replaced people as they've left. The newcomers have taken their places. So Councillor Dyfed Jones has been replaced by John Ivans-Jones from Anglesey, and and Dyfed in turn replaced Ken Taylor. And Councillor John Ivans-Jones has therefore taken a place on the executive panel, Chair. So the membership of the authority now is, I think, nearly complete. I think we're still waiting a replacement for Councillor Coverley from Conwy, and as soon as we have that replacement, we will be up to full strength, and he will take a seat, as you see from the next report, on the audit committee. But Chair, just simply to note the membership and to note those 3 new members, Councillor Michelle Worker, John Ivans-Jones, and the new member to come from Conwy.
Thank you, Gareth. And can I take this opportunity to welcome Councillor John Ivans-Jones to his first meeting. Croeso gyfarfod, John Ivan, mae'n dda yn cael ymuno.
It's good to have you join us.
I take it you've dealt with item 10 as well, and Gareth, so it's on to item 11 with meeting dates.
Sorry, Chair, I couldn't hear that. I think the translation channel's still live, so we couldn't hear what you were saying.
All right, so I take it you've dealt with item 10 as well now, so it's on to item 11 for meeting dates.
Chair, I hadn't dealt with item 10. If I might just go through a little in relation to item 10, just to explain, of course, that we do make appointments to the 2 committees, and we do split them almost 50-50, depending though on what happens with the chair and the vice chair. The report sets out who's on each of those members, and it also sets out our appointment to the various external bodies, which Chair, of course, is largely yourself and in one case the deputy chair as well. So those nominations and the appointments to those bodies are there, and the recommendation, Chair, at paragraph 3 is that the authority confirms its membership and appointment to the committees and external appointments.
Thank you, Gareth. Can I have a proposer for that recommendation, please? Thank you, Nigel. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Carol. Will you, all members show that we approve the recommendation? Diolch. Thank you, Gareth. Apologies for jumping the gun. So we are on to item 11 now, meeting dates.
The meeting dates are as set out, Chair. There is a slight change this year to normal. Ordinarily, we would, or previously, the authority would have held its annual meetings in July. We have, as members will be aware, a sequence of meetings through the course of the year, so that items that need to be approved in more than one place within the authority transition seamlessly from one to the next. For that reason, it's preferable to hold the AGM within July. The Constitution currently specifies, though, that it must be held in June. So what we have done is we've set out the meeting schedule with the AGM taking place in July next year, but also ask members to endorse the change to the Constitution to allow the AGM to take place in July rather than June.
Thank you, Gareth. So do we need to vote on that, or can we just take it as accepted?
Well, there's something called we do the assent motion, don't we, Chair? Where unless somebody wishes to object, you can take it as agreed.
Right, I'm going to take it as agreed. I do see that Councillor Chris Hughes has got his hand up. I don't know if that's a legacy hand, Chris.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't even realise I'd put it up. I do apologise.
No problems, Chris. Thank you. So thank you for that, Gareth. So it's on to item 12, therefore, members' remuneration scheme.
Thank you. And the purpose of this report is threefold. It's to bring to members' attention the changes that were made by the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales to allowances, relatively modest changes this year to allowances, 4.76% increase in basic salary, and a consequent increase for chairs. We need also to publish the list of what we paid to people last year, and that is attached, Chair. And Chair, should we see any changes during the course of the year, we will need to include those people within those new members within the schedule of remuneration, and noting, of course, that we are still awaiting a nomination from Conwy. So the second of the three recommendations on the report is that authority is given to me to update the schedule during the year as the membership changes. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Are there any questions for Gareth? I can't see any hands being raised. Can I have somebody to propose that we accept the recommendations in that case, please? The Deputy Chair proposed Nigel seconding. Will you show that you agree with the recommendations, please? That's fine, thank you. Item 13 is urgent matters. There are no urgent matters for consideration. Just before I close the AGM, can I congratulate the Deputy Chair, who has been voted back in and has now arrived at the meeting. Congratulations, Paul. I think that concludes the AGM. So, Jeff Young, thank you, everybody. And we will move now on to the full authority meeting for this quarter. So the first item on the agenda is apologies, and I take it, Lisa, the apologies remain the same? And then item number 2, declarations of interest. I take it the declarations of interest will also remain the same as with the AGM. So we've had a declaration of interest from Councillor Rob Triggs. Are there any other declarations of interest?
Chair, we have a report from the local pension board. I'm aware that I think 2 members might be members of the pension fund. It would be a personal interest for them, but Councillor Cunningham at least would need to declare, and I'm trying to remember.
Is Councillor Jeff Edmonds?
Jeff?
Right, so we'll note Councillor Paul Cunningham's declaration of interest. I don't know if Councillor Jeff Evans is in attendance,
He is, Chair.
so we'll note his.
Yeah,
Declaration
You're
of
on
interest.
you're on mute, Councillor Evans, but we can see that you're declaring an interest.
Thank you for pointing that out, Gareth.
Councillor Apsley has his hand up, Chair.
Yep, Brian, do you want to come in?
Yes, Chair. I'm also a member of the local pension board.
Thank you. We'll note that interest. Thank you, Brian. So going on to item 3.
Chair,
So
it's just
yeah.
sorry, Chair. I can see Councillor Brimore Hughes has his hand. He might be about to declare that he's a member of the pension board. This is for
Yeah,
members of the pension
I'm-
fund, people who are in receipt of pensions on which the pension board is reporting. You don't need to declare an interest for being a member of the board because it's a part of the authority. But there are people who are in receipt of pensions that are on which the pension board advises, hence the interest.
Thank you for that clarification, Gareth. Rob, do you want to come back in, please?
Yeah, I'm receiving a pension from when I worked for the fire service as well, so I need to declare that. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no other declarations of interest, we'll move on to item 3, which is notice of urgent matters. I haven't received any notice of urgent matters. So we now move on to item 4, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of April 2023. So we'll deal with them in terms of accuracy to begin with before accepting them. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Can't see any hands raised, so can I have somebody propose that we accept the minutes of the last meeting, please? Thank you, Nigel. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy Chair. Will you show that you approve the minutes of the last meeting, please? Thank you. That's been carried. So matters arising. There's a few matters arising that I've noted. Paragraph 7.7, where it says that we resolved to raise the issue of additional funding for the pay award at the Social Partnerships Forum. Chief, do we have an update on that, please?
Yes. At the latest Social Partnership Forum, there was a discussion on the budgets for fire and rescue services in Wales, and Welsh Government confirmed that there would be no additional monies to pay.
So disappointing news, but not surprising, unfortunately. I think, Chief, you wanted to come in on paragraph 8.2.
I'm sure Helen will pick this up later on, but we were intending to bring the final accounts to this meeting, but that will now be presented to the October meeting.
Thank you. And I think you also wanted to come in on item 9.4.
Again, the report on automatic fire alarms was presented to the executive panel, and they will be formally presented to the full fire authority at the October meeting.
Thank you, Chief. And lastly, I think you also wanted to come in on item 11.3.
And just to clarify that a paper on that matter will come to the audit committee in September. It's been prepared by Big Pharma.
Thank you. Is there any other matters arising that anybody would like to raise from the minutes of the last meeting, please? I can't see any hands being raised. Therefore, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the emergency cover review. And I'm going to hand over to the Chief Crime Officer, Stuart Forshaw, to present the report. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide members with an update on the progress of the emergency cover review since the last progress report was presented to the Fire Authority on the 17th of April this year. The report also aims to confirm with members the process and timescales for the authority's public consultation on the future of emergency cover for the community of North Wales and seek confirmation from the authority of the options to be included within the public consultation. To provide some background of the need for emergency cover review in North Wales Fire and Rescue Service, the Audit Wales Review of Corporate Resilience in North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority was published in April 2021. It recommended that the authority should review station locations to identify opportunities to optimise emergency response arrangements. In addition, the Chief Fire Officer's situational assessment presented to the Fire Authority members on the 20th of September 2021 highlighted a number of key risks facing the authority. These included the challenges of maintaining sufficient daytime availability of on-call firefighters working at the 36 retained duty system stations in North Wales. In response, the authority agreed to initiate a programme of reviews, including an emergency cover review from September 2021, with its key objective being to consider the current arrangements and recommend options to provide a fair, sustainable and equitable emergency response across the whole of North Wales, balancing demand and current and future community risks. This work has been overseen by a member-led emergency cover review working group. Now, membership comprised of 6 members, 1 from each constituent local authority. An independent company, ORH, has also been commissioned to work with the emergency cover review team, who are industry experts and provide data analytics to a range of organisations working in the emergency sector. They have provided technical support in relation to data analysis and modelling to critique current emergency cover arrangements and to identify the optimum locations of any additional day staff stations. So far, there's been 5 meetings of the working group to review potential options for improvements, with all of the members of the authority were invited to the first meeting in March and the last meeting which was held last month. Throughout their deliberations, members discounted 2 options. The first being to continue with existing emergency cover arrangements, accept the daytime availability risk, but to no longer put in place the daily relocation of firefighters to mitigate those risks. Or to continue with the existing emergency cover arrangements and introduce 3 additional day staff stations at an extra addition cost of £2.25 million. In summary, the status quo was rejected because of the disparity of response service across North Wales, the risk involved for firefighters and the public, and the costs involved. Members indicated that they wish to consider consulting on those options which seek to meet the aims of the emergency cover review. They include option 1, an improved emergency cover model that would mean that the 12 rural firefighter posts and 28 whole-time firefighter posts from Rhyl Deeside Station would be relocated to the 3 new day staff stations. Cover at Rhyl and Deeside would change to a day crewed model, which is similar to the model currently operates at our fire stations in Colwyn Bay, Llandudno, Bangor, Carnarvon and Holyhead. This will continue to be an additional to the existing RDS firefighters who crew the 2nd fire engine at all of these stations. Option 2 is an alternative model which also provides an improved emergency cover by introducing 3 new day staff stations, but also realising £1.1 million towards the increase in the 2024-25 budget, which is currently estimated at £6 million, thus limiting the year-on-year increase to £4.9 million. This option changes the crew models at Rhyl and Deeside to a day staff model, which leaves the nighttime cover to be provided solely by the retained duty system firefighters at those stations, and also removes the 3rd appliance from Wrexham. In total, this would see a reduction in 22 whole-time firefighter posts. Option 3 changes are in line with option 2. However, only 2 day staff stations are introduced, and there will be a closure of 5 retained duty system fire stations. This is a reduction of 36 full-time and 38 on-call firefighter posts, which realise a saving of £2.4 million, and thus limiting the year-on-year costs to increase to £3.6 million. However,
Gareth, you've got your hand raised. Do you want to come in?
Chair, I'd like to come in after the deputy's finished. Thank you, if I may.
Yes,
I hadn't intended to interrupt him, Chair. Sorry for that.
I'll continue. Regarding option 3, however, it should be noted that this does not have the professional support of the Chief Fire Officer. This is because it does not improve emergency cover, reducing the number of households in North Wales who are able to receive a response within 20 minutes by over 2,000. It also removes 74 firefighter posts, which reduces the capacity of North Wales Fire Rescue Service to deal with any future major incidents. In addition, any possible merger of our retained duty system fire stations can only be considered in the future when the 3 additional day staff stations are in place, providing guaranteed daytime emergency cover. Regarding the consultation on the options, the authority is obliged to consult the public when considering major service change under a variety of legal obligations and common law. In April 2023, the service engaged the Consultation Institute, a not-for-profit, well-established institute promoting high-quality public and stakeholder consultation. The Institute provides quality peer review and a certificate of consultation readiness to ensure that the authority is adopting best practice in line with a consultation charter, and that any full public consultation is delivered to the required standard. A key element of the consultation process is that pre-consultation. This includes focus groups with a range of stakeholders, including blue light partners, community groups, local authorities, staff and representative bodies. The purpose of the pre-consultation is to gain a wider insight and understanding to inform the decision-making and to shape the full consultation. During pre-consultation, a variety of different scenarios are being explored through a series of workshops, seminars and focus groups. During which insights and feedback from a wide range of people is being gathered to inform the fire authority decision-making process. Key themes arising from this engagement include finance, future risks, prevention and protection activity, and how we will engage with the public and business that may be affected, and communication, which is a key aid to understanding the challenges being faced and the impact of any proposals. The service has now concluded its pre-consultation activities. The guidance to ensure consultation readiness in time for full consultation process, which following approval from members is proposed to commence on the 21st of July this year up to the 22nd of September. The results of which will be presented to the Fire Authority meeting on the 16th of October 2023. Therefore, it is requested that members either endorse the recommendation to commence a public consultation around options 1 and 2, or alternatively, commence the public consultation around options 1, 2 and 3. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Stuart. Just before I bring Gareth in, members will be aware that they've had supplemental information provided in a part 2 correspondence that's gone out. Obviously, these are very important decisions that we are undertaking in terms of going out to consultation, and some of it is quite sensitive. We're talking about the possibility of closing some fire stations. So I think it would be best, in order to have a frank and full discussion, that we actually move to a part 2 discussion whereby the press and public would have to be excluded. Gareth, you want to come in and comment on that, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That was the it was about how we handle the part 2 appendix. I was going to about which I was going to speak. As you said, there is a part 2 appendix there which summarises the information that was provided during the working group, in particular at the last meeting. But we're conscious, aren't we, Chair, that not everybody was able to make that last meeting, and therefore we wanted to provide that information to members so that they had all of the facts in front of them. It is possible, Chair, that if members just want to talk about whether they prefer options 1 and 2 or options 1, 2 and 3, that the debate might take place in public. But if any member did want to refer to any of the facts within that confidential appendix, then yes, we will need to go into closed session, and we will need a formal resolution, Chair, to go into closed session. If we do that, we will stop the recording and the broadcast. We will have the debate, and then we will resume the broadcast when the debate in this item is over. As I say, it is possible that members will feel able to debate it in public, as it is, we're talking about a public consultation. But if anybody did want to get into questions about that appendix, we will need to go into part 2 for the reasons that you have explained. There is some very sensitive information in there that needs to be kept confidential until the consultation is published at the end of the week.
Thank you, Gareth. Councillor Mark,
Yeah, just I think it's a point of order, just on confirmation. I thought option 1, 2 and 3 was supported by officers and everything what came before us was. So I'm surprised by the statement. I understand you have that point, but I thought everything presented to us did have support. So I just want that clarifying before we go into part 2 or whatever. I think that's really important, because that's how I understood it, and I've just checked with my colleague. So I just think we need to clarify that point for members, please.
in terms of clarification, my recollection of the last working group meeting, which was open to all authority members, although less than half actually attended, there was a consensus that we would go out to consult on options 1, 2 and 3, but it wasn't unanimous.
I think the point I'm making is that whether it's supported by officers, I think all the options presented to us were said they could be delivered and supported. There's a statement here saying they're not. I just want clarification of that, because that's really important for me, and it doesn't feel how I remember the meeting.
Can I maybe
Chief,
come in? And as you're aware, unfortunately, I was detained in London and couldn't get back for that meeting. And I suppose the reason why I have reservations around option 3 is that it doesn't meet the objectives of the emergency cover review. So when I was interviewed for the post of Chief Fire Officer, I said my priority was the communities of North Wales and providing a service to those communities in which they can have confidence in. And that's one of the reasons why we started the emergency cover review, to ensure that we did have resources in the right place, able to respond in a timely manner and with the right skills. Once the financial climate became so challenging, we reluctantly had to abandon the idea of expanding the number of full-time firefighters and to create day staff stations. And we had to look at, could we employ the firefighters that we currently employ? Can we make sure that they were able to be relocated to day staff stations and to be able to deliver an equitable emergency? As the financial challenges of our councils became very evident in our last budget setting, we therefore created the second option, and that does still improve emergency cover during the day, but reduces the increase that we require for a continuation budget for 2024-25. That's option 2. So where we differ is on option 3, because option 3 takes those cuts further. It is only based on financial consideration, and it does not improve emergency cover during the day. So it is deliverable, but it doesn't improve emergency cover. And that takes that provision away from over 2,000 households. So for that reason, I cannot professionally support that option. It is an option that can be delivered, but doesn't meet the objectives of the emergency cover review, which was to improve emergency cover across the whole of North Wales. That's the position.
Does that answer your question?
Obviously, I wish I'd heard that before going in the papers. That's really important. We need to have some sort of consensus, so I'm surprised looking at it if it doesn't have full support. But it is only consultation, and you do accept the financial side of the discussions.
I think, just to clarify, officers will support and help to deliver whatever options we say we want to consult on, but obviously they do have their professional assessment in relation to the options And how with what are we? Should only go?
Do you wish to come in? Yes, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Can I just say that the sound from the main room is rather poor at the moment. It comes and goes rather from the main room. But I just want to mention with this, I had apologized from that particular meeting that discussed the matter. I was sorry that it was held on a day when one of the main committees of Gwynedd was being held. And I made that comment at the time. And of course, I also accept the response that I received. But unfortunately, following the guidance we've had now this morning, there are a couple of quick questions I would like to ask. But because of that guidance, I'm afraid that I will have to ask that we go to a closed meeting for me to ask those questions. I'm sure I will not get very rapid answers to the questions, but I would better be on the safe side and ask that we go to the closed meeting to discuss this. So thank you. So you are proposing that we go to a closed meeting before we proceed? Yes.
To that proposal that we moved to part 2 discussion. Will you show if you do agree with that, please? Okay, there seems to be an overwhelming consensus that we do in that case. Gareth, is that complying with the legal requirements?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It does. If we can just wait, can we just have confirmation that the live webcast and the recording have stopped?
No, because one of the things I've highlighted in my report, as we do quite often, is how worthwhile it is to attend the Phoenix Award ceremonies with the young people when they're there doing their training. And I know that Chrissy G attended the last one in Flint and found it so inspiring. So if you haven't had the opportunity to attend one of those award ceremonies at the end of the course, can I please encourage you to do so? Are there any questions or comments arising from the chair's report, please? No, in that case, we'll crack on. So we now move to the appointment of the new internal auditor. It is for information, it has been through the audit committee. Helen, do you want to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm first people online. I think we sorted the sound out, which apparently was the rain on the roof, so apologies about that. This paper is for information only and confirms the decision of the audit committee to appoint Mersey Internal Audit Agency as the authority's internal audit providers. This appointment followed a procurement exercise, and the decision was taken by a panel of the audit committee comprising of the chair, the deputy chair, and also the treasurer. And that decision was endorsed by the audit committee at its meeting on the 19th of June. Mersey is part of the public sector and based in the northwest of England, and they provide internal audit services to a range of public sector bodies, including local authority, health, fire and police. In addition to internal audit, they provide a range of specialist services, which include areas such as IT and cyber security. Importantly, the Mersey demonstrated technical skills, sector experience, value for money, and also social value in the development of their staff. And in that regard, the engagement lead is first language Welsh and will also be able to provide a bilingual service to us. So I'm happy to take any questions on the report, but it is for information only.
Okay, as you've heard, it is just for information. Are there any questions? If not, we move to the recommendation, which is to note the appointment of Mersey Internal Audit Agency as the authority's internal audit providers for the financial period 1st of April 2023 and 31st of March 2026. Nigel, are you proposing that recommendation?
I'd be very happy to move the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Will you show that you approve the recommendation, please? That is carried. Thank you very much. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the annual governance statement. And once again, that's been to the audit committee.
I think we might well, Chair, have jumped over a couple of items there.
Oh, sorry. We have the treasury management activity, item 9. And I think it's David, as treasurer, that's going to introduce this item. Sorry, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, once again, this has been to Audit Committee, and I do not want to repeat it all from there. It is quite a technical item, looking back at the financial year.
We've got no translation at the moment.
Translation. Are we back on?
Yeah.
It's only technical and
Quite a technical item, looking back at the last financial year, which finished in March. This has been to the committee and been approved there. It noted that we had not broken the boundaries set back in February 2002, and I would suggest in that sense that the authority approve.
David, are there any questions or comments for David as the treasurer? No, so the recommendation is that members note the treasury management activity and approve the financial prudential indicators for 2022-23. Can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Gwynfor. Gwynfor, can I have a seconder? Diolch, Gareth. Can you all show that that is approved? Diolch yn fawr. So going back to the agenda, so we now move on to the internal audit annual report, and I think it's Helen presenting that. Thank you, Helen.
Diolch. This item has also been considered by the Audit Committee at its meeting on the 19th of June. It also builds on the previous internal audit item, which sets out the requirement for the authority to make arrangements for the internal audit of its control environment. The report provides members with an update on the work of the internal audit function during 22-23 and confirms the head of internal audit's opinion on the internal control environment. During that financial year, the internal auditors reviewed both the payroll and the creditor system, and then our core expenditure systems. Review of payroll considered the arrangements for new starters, right through to making payments to actually individuals leaving the organisation. And similarly, the creditors system considered the arrangements for setting up new suppliers, making payments to suppliers, and altering the standing details for those suppliers. Although a number of recommendations were made, to be expected, the audit received satisfactory assurance. So the overall conclusion by the head of internal audit was that the authority has adequate and effective internal control processes. And again, very relevant to the annual governance statement. So I'm happy to take any questions on the report that we're seeking approval by the authority.
Thank you, Helen. Any questions or comments? Councillor Chris Hughes? Got your hand up, is that legacy hand?
I don't know what's happening, Chair. My hand keeps going up and I'm nowhere near it.
Nigel, you got your hand up as well? You're on mute, Nigel.
Apologies for that, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation and obviously thank Keith Williams of Conway for the sterling work he's done over the years. Obviously, they've retired now, and also to thank Helen for her work as well.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Chair. So the recommendation is that members note the content of the Head of Audit and Procurement Annual Report, the overall opinion on the adequacy and effectiveness of the authority's framework of governance, risk management and control. Will you show that you approve, please? For that, that's been passed. So we go on to item 11, which is the annual governance statement. That report has also been through the executive panel, and I think it's Anthony who's going to introduce that. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, yes, so members, this report in pages 38 to 60 of your pack is to present the members with the draft annual governance statement for 22 and 23. Delivering good governance in local government framework 2016 requires that the Fire and Rescue Authority publish an annual governance statement. This draft annual governance statement for the year 2022 to 23 is set out within your Appendix 1, which is from page 41 of your pack. And this has been prepared in accordance with the principles set out within that framework. The forward work programme for 2023-24, which is pages 57 and 58 of your pack, is contained within the draft annual governance statement. The annual governance statement will be published as part of production of our statutory financial statements for 22 and 23. An assessment will be made by our external auditor, Audit Wales, to confirm whether it is consistent with the financial statements and has been produced in line with the framework. Following this assessment, a final version of the annual governance statement will be presented back to the Fire Authority in October for approval and subsequent internal and external publication. Therefore, the recommendation is members are asked to note the governance arrangements outlined within the draft 2022 to 23 annual governance statement, note the forward work plan for 2023 to 24, and approve the draft 2022 to 2023 annual governance statement. I can take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Ant. Are there any questions or comments for Ant? No, I don't see any hands raised, so you've heard what the recommendation is. Can I have somebody to propose, please? Thank you, Deputy Chair. Can I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Will you show that you approve the recommendation, please? That is carried. Thank you. So we now go on to the financial outturn for 2022-23. This report has also gone through the audit committee. Helen, I think you're introducing it.
Indeed, thank you. This paper confirms the unaudited revenue and capital positions for the 22-23 financial year. It also sets out the arrangement for the production and audit of the financial statements. Ordinarily, the financial statements are prepared by the end of May and audited by the end of July, but due to workforce issues in Audit Wales and also some of the COVID impacts, those deadlines have now been extended. So we've had confirmation from the Welsh Government that the audit deadline is now in November and our production deadline is the end of July. As it happens, the accounts have been prepared and they're currently started with Audit Wales for audit. In overall terms, the net budget for 2022-3 was approved by members in December 21. I saw contributions from our constituent local authorities in 39.41 million. The outturn position is a small overspend of 40,000. That actually follows a number of technical accounting adjustments. That includes both the use of balance sheet provisions and also reserves. I would draw members' attention to the table within the report, which sets out the position across our key expenditure headings. The most major one being payroll, and that's been a very difficult year for us this year, given especially that the planning assumption for pay awards was 2% and the actual outturn agreed position was 7%. We've actually held a balance sheet provision of circa £500,000 and that's been utilised in the year. Within the year, our financial position was managed also through some increased income, namely that we received a refund on a national normal domestic rates charge of about £500,000. That was very welcome. The gains are one-off and are likely to be repeated. Similarly, there was recovery of income in respect of our apprentices, and that reflects the fact that we took on additional staff in year and they're being brought into operational use through the apprenticeship scheme. Definitely a very challenging year, both in terms of supplies and services. There's a number of items that we were expecting to be delivered around our PPE weren't delivered in year, which again reduced our spend. I'd like to draw members' attention to the grants. In overall terms, the grant funding, we received 2.4 million, the major grant element being that of the pension grant and also filing. Pension grant is now forms part of the revenue support grant from the Welsh Government and also the filing grant ceased in 22-23. So both of those will be impactful in this financial year. Turning to the capital programme, the capital plan was 3.3 million. That included schemes brought forward from 21-22. Minor overspend yet again, but I think what it also reflects is that it's been necessary to roll over some schemes into 22-23. Capital spend is under significant inflationary pressure and also availability of contractors. I'd like to turn briefly to the balance sheet, and that provides information both on our long-term financial position and also the borrowing thereof. So in terms of our fixed assets, which cover land, property, equipment, ICT, but also vehicles, the value of those at the year end was just over 57 million compared to 40 million in 21-22. The increase reflects both the capital programme, but also the valuation adjustments in relation to our buildings. They're professionally valued using the value in use methodology adopted for our public sector assets. In respect of our capital programme, we are permitted to borrow, and at the end of the financial year, our borrowing was just over 26 million. We took a significant loan out right at the year end because we knew that we had cash flow expected at the start of this financial year, and therefore our cash balance at year end was £4 million. I think of note are the pension liabilities. There at the year end were valued at 227 million. And that is a reduction year on year, and that reduction is as a consequence of the actuarial assumptions, and they were considered by the local pension board at a recent meeting. Worth noting, a formal valuation is currently being undertaken by the Government Actuary Department, and that will provide a more comprehensive picture for future years. So I think in overall terms, 2022-23 has been exceptionally challenging. Both in terms of the delays in finalising the pay settlements, the inflationary challenges, but also interest rate increases as well. We've been able to manage the position through use of balance sheet provisions, vacancies, management of variable pay, but also some exceptional income receipts and deferred expenditure. I'm happy to take any questions on the information contained within the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Helen, for that comprehensive overview. Any questions or comments for Helen, please? No. The actual recommendations are to... Oh, sorry, Nigel. Oh, hang on. No, first of all, can I ask David to come in first, Nigel? Sorry. Diolch, David.
Yeah, dim byd mawr, Cadeirydd.
Nothing major, Mr. Chairman. Just to confirm, Helen, and thanks Helen for the work on the accounts. Am I being heard? The gentleman's asking if the translation is working. Yes. Thank you for the work on these. The statements have been signed and sent to the auditors, but it'll take some time with their workload, and the work has come to you as an authority, but I'm happy to confirm the accuracy of the report, and I look forward to the next year. It has been a challenge last year. The figures have turned out a little better than I had predicted, to be honest, but of course we have the greater challenge this year with the remuneration agreements having turned out considerably higher than we had provided for. With inflation, we have therefore a good deal of issues to sort out in the current year. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Helen and to move the recommendation.
Did you have a seconder, please?
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. So the recommendations are that we note the unaudited revenue and capital outturn position for the 2022-23 financial year, including the earmarked reserves as detailed within the report. Note the unaudited 2022-23 balance sheet position, and note the timescale for the production of the annual statement of accounts and the external audit thereof. Will you show that you agree, please? So item 13 is the local pension board annual report. And once again, Your turn, Helen, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This item hasn't been to the audit committee, but it has been to the local pension board. It's to present the annual report to the local pension board for approval by the fire authority, and also to seek approval to increase the membership of the board. The local pension board itself is established as a requirement of the Pensions Act, and although it's not actually a decision-making group, it aims to support the fire authority in its capacity as the firefighters scheme manager. I think what this recognises is both the complexity and sensitivity of pensions, and all members of the local pension board are required to gain core knowledge and expertise by completing the pensions regulator training for trustees, and also to participate in training at each meeting. The report in the pack today sets out the membership, and notably that the membership needs to be equal between the employee representatives and the employer representatives. It also sets out the schedule of work that we've undertaken. So notably, the chair of the local pension board rotates every 2 years, so it fluctuates between the employee and the employer representative. And that rotation of chair is currently sat with the employees. We have a conflict of interest policy, which recognises that members of the board may have a vested interest. And also the main focus of the work during the year is on the legal challenges. There have been a number of high-profile legal challenges, including the McLaren Sargent judgment, which relates to age discrimination, and then more recently the O'Brien, which relates to discrimination against part-time members of the pension scheme. Within each meeting, we have standard agenda items. So we look at membership, making sure that people are participating in the pension scheme, understanding what the risks of the pension scheme are, receiving an administrative update, ensuring that all of the regulatory changes issued by the Welsh Government are actioned, and then also looking at any concerns raised under the internal dispute resolution process. We don't go it alone. There is an All Wales Scheme Advisory Board, and we also participate in that. So it's providing that assurance to members of the Fire Authority that we have a number of strands to local pensions. I think it's fair to say that the focus for 23-24 will continue on those legal challenges and ensuring that we have communication arrangements in place with our members. Over the year, the demands on the members have meant that we've had to cancel one meeting and declare a second one. And therefore, within the paper today, there is a proposal to increase the membership by one employee representative and one employer representative. And if that is accepted by yourselves, then we'll require a nomination from one of the Fire Authority.
Thank you very much, Helen. David, if you should only go on.
David, did you wish to come in? Or is that the old hand? No, to support what Helen said. I think one thing that's not in the report is the attendance record from everybody, and I think it's fair to say that it's the same ones who turn up regularly, and I think it makes sense to broaden the membership in order to try and ensure that there is representation from the employees' side around the table with us regularly.
Well, if we assume that we will be passing that recommendation to increase the membership, do we have a willing volunteer from authority members to actually go onto the pension board, please? We can always circulate an invite after this meeting.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned attendance. We'll choose the councillor with the worst attendance rate to go on the pension board. I'm only joking. Right. Do we have? If there's no questions or comments, do we have a proposer for the recommendations, please? Yeah, John Brinmore. And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Nigel. So the recommendations are that members approve the local pension board's 2022-23 annual report. Note the inclusion of a further item on the forward work programme to include an update on the financial aspects of the pension fund, including the ongoing valuation. approve the increase in membership of the local pension board from 8 to 10 members, and seek nominations for further employer representation from members of the authority. And as I said, we'll circulate a request for that. You show that you approve the recommendations, please. That's carried. So we go on to item 14, which is the Environmental Strategy 2023 to 2030. That strategy has been scrutinised by the executive, and I'm handing over to Assistant Chief Higher Officer Stuart Millington. Thank you, Stuart.
Yes, this paper presents a new environmental strategy for 2023-2030. It's been developed in partnership with members who attend the Environment and Sustainability Working Group, and as the Chair has already said, this paper has been through the exec panel in June. Working groups have discussed the various legislative requirements and the need for Welsh public sector to be carbon neutral by 2030. And as well as that, they've discussed how the authority can begin that journey to becoming carbon neutral and make positive improvements prior to that 2030 deadline. I previously described how the environmental strategy will be a parent document and will be supported by a number of other strategies or action plans, including the social value and sustainable procurement strategy, a heating decarbonisation plan, a power decarbonisation plan, a fleet decarbonisation plan, a biodiversity report and action plan, as well as a waste reduction strategy. The report is set out in a way where it provides a policy context and then describes a set of targets based on themes, and these themes include measuring progress, sustainability in the community, sustainable procurement, energy consumption, water consumption, operational activities, waste and recycling, fleet and biodiversity, and more detail included within the report that opens out each of those areas. So members are asked to approve and adopt the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority environmental strategy for 2023 to 2030. I'm happy to take any questions for Dave.
Thank you, Stuart. And can I thank you and also thank Tim Christensen, the Environment and Climate Change Manager, and also Chris Hughes and other members of the working group for the excellent work that they've done in producing this strategy. Are there any questions or comments for Stuart? Nigel?
Thank you, Chair. With the very expensive energy costs at the moment, and the fact that solar installations are coming down in price and generally cover the cost within 3 years, is this something that we're looking at to roll out across our stations throughout the county, throughout the North Wales counties?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. As I mentioned, this parent document detailed a number of other strategies or action plans that sit beneath, and one of those action plans is very much around the heating and energy decarbonisation, and within that provides a number of areas, and the one that you raise is very much included, where we will undertake feasibility studies and an understanding of the opportunities to install solar panels as and when we can, but we will do that in a way which is cost neutral to the service, where those systems and then those schemes pay for themselves through grant funding, which then provide recoverable costs in order to achieve a cost neutral basis for that. So there's a variety of other things, and as we roll out those plans that will follow this plan, you'll be able to see more detail of those things, Councillor.
Thank you.
John
Grenwell?
Yes, just to say that all the meetings we've had have been very constructive, and I'd like to thank Tim for his professional input into guiding us through the meetings that we had. Thank you.
Yeah, John Grenwell. Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd just like to thank the officers for all the hard work that they've put in. It has been a really informative process, but it's also been a constructive process, I think, as well, where members have contributed to the process. It's pleasing to see that we're not doing things in isolation, that we're working in partnership with our partners, local authorities, police and others, to look at areas that we can get best get a more general approach or a corporate approach across North Wales. And I'm certainly happy to recommend the strategy to members and to move the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chris. Mark, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just on the solar panels and mention of grants, obviously the biggest risk is energy costs. So even if we've done the business case for funding it ourselves, the savings long term are certainly there. So are we looking at the business cases long term rather than wait for grants to be more proactive?
I think that we're in a situation where the grants are available now for us to work up, and it's grants the wrong word. It's a fund in which we can apply for, and it's balanced out, and it's very much available for us now to start to sort of receive those benefits. But it needs to be done in a way where it does pay for itself. So, for example, the way in which our roofs need to be assessed to make sure that they're strong enough to have, because that would incur additional costs. So we need to do all that feasibility work to ensure that we prioritise the areas which are going to give us the biggest bang for the buck. We do that and we call on that grant that's available for us to start access almost immediately, well on the way to putting us in the best position we can be prior to 2030.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. So we've had a proposer. Do I have a seconder for us to adopt the strategy, please?
Second.
Mark, happy to second. Will you show that you approve, please? Thank you. That's been passed. So we move on to the last item on the agenda today, which is item 15, the performance monitoring report, April 2022 to March 2023. Once again, this report has been scrutinised by the executive panel, and it's over to Deputy Chief Fire Officer Stuart Forshaw. Thank you, Stuart.
The purpose of this report is to provide members with information about incident activity during 22-23 financial year, performance in relation to the authority's improvement and wellbeing objectives, and also other notable incident activities. And as the Chair said, this has been received by members of the executive panel. Highlights of the service incident activity during 22-23 include: the service attended 5,896 emergency incidents. This was an increase of 541 incidents when compared to the previous year. However, the number of accidental dwelling fires in the home attended during the year declined to 344, which is compared to 400 during 21-22. I'm also pleased to report that no accidental deaths in dwelling fires occurred during the financial year, and that there was also a reduction in the number of serious injuries from 5 to 3 when compared to the year before. It is also pleasing to note that smoke and heat detector ownership were present in the majority of the accidental dwelling fires we attended in the home, with an 87% ownership recorded. Attendances at non-fire emergencies, which are classified as special service calls, increased by 26% to 1,211. And this was following a deliberate change in policy to provide more assistance to the public and partner agencies, whilst at the same time increasing the visibility of our staff within the community. This includes an increase in the number of road traffic collisions from 207 to 234, where 69 involved the rescue and release of people from their vehicle. Wildfires continue to be an area of focus for the service, as they can be particularly challenging incidents for us to deal with because of their erratic nature, potential size, scale and intensity, and also because of the rural and rural-urban interface environments which they tend to occur. During 22-23, the service attended 35 wildfires that required a combined total of 108 vehicles for over 646 hours. There were 2,674 false alarms attended during the year, and this is an increase of 6.2% on the previous year. Automatic fire alarms in dwellings continue to be on an upward trend by increasing from 1,100 to 1,165. This is an area of growth for our response, which is being monitored by officers whilst working with care line providers. And the service completed 8,052 safe and well checks, of which 6,162 were completed at high priority residents. And of those high priority safe and well checks, almost 3,500 were referrals from partner agencies, demonstrating the partnership working that we have with our other stakeholders in the community. Finally, fire crews availability performance in accordance with the 20 stations availability target last year increased to 88.8% compared with 85.8% in the previous financial year. Observations from the executive panel, which was held on the 19th of June, include recognition of the positive news that there had been no accidental dwelling fire-related deaths during the year, which in answer to a member's question was discussed that this was due to over a decade of the preventative work being carried out by the service. So, Chair, the recommendation is members note the content of the performance monitoring report, which includes greater detail into the specific areas of the authority's emergency response during 22-23.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And it really is a good news story that there's been no accidental deaths due to fires and dwellings over the last 12 months. Any questions or comments for Deputy Fire Officer?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. Just on the really good report, good news, but the wildfire is a good one, isn't it? Sounds all good, the work, so I just wondered how the partnership working is going on that, because it's not just ourselves involved. And we talk about our emergency response, but there's a regional one. I'd like to know how that's going and the partnerships involved. Are they doing what they require so we can deliver also, please?
Yeah, so Stuart's more of an expert when it comes to wildfires because he's led on our wildfire review, Stuart. So I don't know if you want to give us a latest update on the partnership work.
Yeah, okay, so clearly we are continuing to work with all partners, and we have good arrangements in place to visit sites on a priority basis, to build plans, to assist working with partners and landowners to manage those sites and provide advice and support in relation to land management, and that includes, you know, discussing things like putting fire breaks in place and doing an assessment of site-specific risks where we provide to our staff all the details about key risk areas, where there may be people residing, where the water supplies may be, and all of those kind of things to ensure that our response is as effective as it can be. And we work with Natural Resources Wales in relation to that, as well as landowners. We continue positive relationships with Natural Resources Wales in relation to other opportunities or other tools in our basket to tackle wildfires. And one of those is the provision of a helicopter from Natural Resources Wales. They fund that for fires on their land or on land adjacent to their land, and we continue to be able to utilise that really valuable resource whilst also developing alternative methods to fight wildfires using things like burn back teams, and developing our staff to understand the new and evolving technological responses in relation to wildfires. In addition to all of those things, we're working to provide better facilities, and you'll remember in a previous meeting where we discussed the provision of wildfire kits that we paused this year, but we very much have continued our work to understand the best kit that may be available for a subsequent time. It may well be available for us to purchase wildfire kit for our firefighters. And in addition to all of those things, we're very much making good progress around the provision of welfare facilities for incidents of this type. In previous occasions, we've had firefighters working, and we've heard about Francisco being mentioned today, for long periods of time without suitable toilets and welfare facilities. And we're making real progress in relation to that. We'll be able to provide those facilities during this financial year. So there's lots and lots going on in relation to wildfire, as well as multiple relaunches at strategic and tactical level across the whole of Wales to make sure that we're all sharing best practice and we're all developing our firefighters and our managers to resolve these incidents as well as we can.
Thanks for that. Really good response. Good work. It sounds so. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just make a point? Going on from what Stuart says, I represent Flintshire on the area of outstanding natural beauty, which covers Wrexham, Flintshire and Denbighshire, although Flintshire is only a small part of the AONB. And I'm pleased to say that the AONB works as a stakeholder in partnership with the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority to look after things on their land, and they do engage with the Fire Authority.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Brian Apsley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mentioned earlier that my concern over the old incidents and trend, 13.96, and then last year 10.1%, overall 25.4 increase in all incidents. And with what we were discussing earlier under item 6, That concern I've got obviously intensifies because of those results. So just expressing my concern. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Nigel?
Thank you, Chair. I see on paragraph 10, it talks about the availability and performance across the 20 stations has risen by 3.5% to 88.8% compared to 85.8% the year before. As you know, I sit as a reserve member on the LGA Fire Service Management Committee, and it was mentioned at the last meeting that a number of English fire authorities send out the equipment, so the fire engines, not fully crewed, and then get the crews that arrive late to the fire in reserve vehicles. I just wonder whether that is something that we may consider, which might help us increase our availability even more.
Okay, so give a response, Chair. So in relation to the crewing of vehicles or of crews with less than the standard number, so we have a situation where we have a safe system of work which is in place with a minimum of 4 firefighters who operate a fire appliance. Where that is very, very difficult for us to achieve, we are considering new and innovative ways to achieve that number without delaying the response to the fire appliance. So, for example, in Vermaris and Menai Bridge currently, we are operating a dual crewing model where they would respond from alternative locations and come together to make a crew. We do something similar in Abu Dhabi and Tawin, where we're struggling to find crews to crew one station in its own right. So there are opportunities for us to look at things innovatively. We've recently published our RDS review, and one of the recommendations within that review is to consider where there may be opportunities to mobilise with fewer numbers. One example would be if a crew is attending an incident where there is already another crew and an incident commander in situ, then it may be a possibility for a crew to respond to make up numbers with less than what a full crew would be. But all of these things would need to be worked through in terms of a safe system of work to make sure that we're not ever affecting the health and safety requirements of the authority and of our staff. It very much needs to be done based on risk limitation and avoidance.
Thank you, Stuart. Councillor Jeff Evans?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to again make a general comment. Can I just applaud the North Wales Fire and Rescue Service, from its management to its crew and even the public, for all working in partnership over the last year to ensure that this is a wonderful, safe place to live. But the performance of the fire service, and especially the crew, is something we should really applaud. So though we're talking about changes, I really wanted that to be noted, that they are appreciated for everything that they're doing and will do in the future. Thank you to all concerned.
Thank you, Jeff, and that's a very positive note as we draw to a close, as we finish. So can I have a proposer that we note the report, please? Thank you, Deputy Chair. Thank you, Mark. Secretary, will you show that you agree? Thank you very much. There are no urgent matters. That concludes the proceedings for today. Can I thank everybody for their participation and contributions? Diolch yn fawr pawb.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Dylan. Hwyl fawr, bawb.
Well,